As we predicted, this far right-wing Supreme Court has issued a ruling that it is going to allow those racist Texas congressional maps to move forward to 2026. Remember, Donald Trump called the governor of Texas and said he wanted 5 seats. The Department of Justice issued the letter claiming that Texas congressional maps were unconstitutional because race was a factor. And so he called a special session. The Republicans led it. Remember, the Democrats walked out. But we told y'all, and I hope all those Democrats in Texas, all those Democrats who punked out, who did not want to stay out, and they could have stayed out. Oh, we don't know how long they can stay out. And they said, well, we think if we do this and we come back and they pass the maps, then, we're going to be able to, the Supreme Court is going to freeze the maps in place. And even though there was a lower court ruling declaring that race was indeed a factor, the Supreme Court is going to allow it to move forward. And the Supreme Court has ruled. The Supreme Court has ruled that they said that the plaintiffs more than likely are not going to win on this particular merits of the case. AP story says the justices cast doubt on the lower court finding that race played a role in the new map, saying in an unsigned statement that Texas lawmakers had, quote, avowedly partisan goals, unquote. Ain't that something? Greg, your thoughts?
I embrace it. I welcome it, Roland. I'll be quite frank with you. The white nationalist judge of the 2-1 Court of Appeals and District Court ruling where they blocked the implementation of the new map, I embrace his racist dissent, which I'm sure that the court used as part of its rationale on the so-called shadow docket or rocket docket. I embrace the MAGA 6. Because in order to break the back of these white nationalists, it can't be done in the courts alone. It can't be done at the ballot box alone. It can't be done by organizing outside of those venues alone. All three must work together. Why do I embrace it? Again, going back to my home state of Nashville, we saw what Afton Ben was able to do earlier this week. We win. This is far from over. So y'all go ahead and try it. Use everything you have.
This right here, Reese, is why you cannot have weak Democrats in leadership. The Democrats in Texas who chose to end the walkout, they's like, well, the way we see this playing out, and I disagree with them. I challenged them. I said, you are screwing over black voters. As a result of this decision, this wipes out the congressional district of Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. It merges forces. Frankly, Mark Vesey and Crockett, their districts, it wipes out one of the district for Al Green. And then, of course, he's forced. They moved where he lived. They moved him into 30th Congressional District. He represented the 9th. And this is why what California, Gavin Newsom, what he did there was important. In fact, this is Virginia Speaker of the House, Don Scott, a native of Texas, Sterling High School in Houston. This is what he said about what they're going to do in Virginia. Right now in Virginia, it's 6-5. 6 Democrats, 5 Republicans. He said that he's working right now on a map that will make it 10 Democrats, 1 Republican. So as a result of them losing the 5 in Texas, they're going to pick up 4 in Virginia. Roll it.
Tell us a little bit about how you think that's going to go here, and if you can give us any hints about how it will play out.
Well, first of all, we got to realize, we didn't want to have to do this. This was done because Donald Trump told Texas, Indiana, North Carolina, our neighbors, to rig their election and make sure his policies are so unpopular he couldn't win the midterm. So he's rigging it, redrawing those states' maps, and basically disenfranchising Virginians, and disenfranchising other parts of the country who now their voices won't be heard. Their voices will be minimized because he's rigging the election. And so, I don't know how y'all did, but I grew up in 3rd Ward in Houston, and if a bully came and punched you in the mouth, you didn't sit there and cry. you better punch back unless you're going to keep getting punched. And that's where we are right now. We have a bully, and he has a bully pulpit, and he's bullying these folks in these states to change the rules. And so we have an opportunity, we have an obligation, I think, to stand up and do something different. And in Virginia, because we have this trifecta, we have an opportunity to do some redistricting, to look at redrawing the maps. Our congressional delegation right now is 6-5 Democrats, 6 Democrats, 5 Republicans. 10-1 is not out of the realm. And I think, you laugh. I'm not joking.
I think it's
no, 10-1 is not out of the realm to be able to draw the maps in a succinct, community-based way. But we're going to take a look at it. We have to. The Congress right now is like a 3-vote difference. And so if he keeps rigging these things by 1 and 2s and 3s, we have to push back. And so right now, Virginia's going to have an opportunity. We have a long process to do that. Ultimately, the voters decide. The legislature, we have to make a constitutional amendment. We've already voted for the first resolution. In Virginia, you have to vote for it twice with an intervening election. So we voted for it once. We had an election. We'll vote for it again, more than likely on January 14th. That's why I say things that happen fast. And then once we do that, we'll set a date, pass some legislation to set a date for an election to happen on whether we should adopt that proposed constitutional amendment to allow us to do what they call the decennial, right? Every 10 years. So a mid-decennial redrawing of the maps. And that's what we would do if we were able to pass that. So y'all going to be seeing a lot of more TV commercials again. I apologize in advance because it's going to be a whole campaign. And hopefully most of y'all will support it because we cannot allow folks to rig the system in the middle of the cycle and we not respond. And that's what we're doing.
Well, Reese, I wish somebody tell a punk leader in Maryland to get off his ass and use your power the way Republicans are.
Well, first of all, let's go back to Texas. I have to say, Roland, when the walkout happened and several lawmakers returned and Jolanda Jones stayed behind, I said, let's see when this special election happens if the voters reward her for her bravery and for her steadfastness in terms of saying we want to fight it like her in Congress. She did not make the runoff. We now see State Representative James Tallarico, who's running for Senate, and people are telling Jasmine Crockett to stand down because he's supposedly the best chance. So there's a disconnect between the whole notion that Democratic officials, Democratic candidates, et cetera, should be the ones to fight and what voters actually support. So I just want to start there. But I'm glad to see them fighting this way in Virginia because it is about time that Democrats recognize that one side can't be the side of decorum and civility and for the rules and for, this is how it's always been done and we don't want to set a precedent. Fuck that. Set all the precedents that you need to let them know that we're going to bring an Uzi to a gunfight, not a knife any longer. And so the Supreme Court is doing what it's doing, but I want to go back to what Dr. Carr said. What are the Latino Hispanic voters that Republicans are pulling their pump card right now and saying that, oh, we're going to pack a whole bunch of y'all on these issues because y'all don't vote or y'all vote Republican anyway. What is y'all going to do? Are y'all going to say, we don't want to be terrorized by ICE. We don't want the color of our skin. We don't want our accents to be open season on us being stopped, harassed, being detained, being deported, our families being broken apart because y'all thought that he wasn't talking about y'all when he said they're bringing the drugs, when he said that we're going to go after the criminals. What is y'all going to do? If they start realizing that this is their N-word wake-up call, and they ain't white like how they maybe thought they were, and they ain't the upstanding citizens that they thought they were, then maybe we could see some change. I don't bank on white people changing their opinion, but the Latinos, that's where the key to what happens in Texas and much around the country is going to hinge upon.
Nola, the point here, which I said to these Texas Democrats who I said were wrong for in the end of the walkout. I said, you cannot trust this Supreme Court. This was a 6-3 decision. I said, you cannot trust this right-wing court. You cannot trust them. I said, so you must, as State Representative Harold Dutton said, you use everything in your arsenal. Harold Dutton even floated the possibility of all Democrats resigning that would absolutely, he said the governor could not call enough special elections fast enough to hit the deadline when it came to filing for these races. And too many of these weak Democrats, they say, well, we're going to break it. We're going to break the quorum. Oh, we can't stay out. And look, I understand the impact on families and all of that. But guess what? We're in this city right here. We now arrive on the campus, Alabama State. 50,000 black people did not get on a bus for 382 days. I think some of these white and Asian and Latino, and there was some black Democrats in Texas, they should also learn to have a lot more damn fight in their system. And now, as a result, they got to live with these maps because the Supreme Court says they can move forward with it in 2026.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You know, the first thing that I want to say is I don't think any of us here are shocked about what happened. I mean, we all pretty much told the world that is what was going to happen. So let me say that. And then secondly, you know, I'm thinking about this as a political scientist. This particular case in Texas is one of those type of case studies that for a very long time we're going to be looking at, because I don't think that it's going to turn out the way that Republicans think it's going to turn out. But to your point about electeds having to pretty much go within and figure out who they want to be in this moment, and it's really that simple. I gave a talk at AFGE a few months ago, and that was my question to the room. In this moment, who do you want to be? And I always say, I don't chide anyone who wanted to be a government employee, wanted to be an elected official, to do good, to fight the good fight, to really believe in decorum and coming together, you know, on the Hill and legislation and all that, all the things that it's supposed to be. I don't blame anyone for believing in that. But now we know quite firmly where we sit with all of this. We've taken the time to survey the field. So now you have to decide, are you going to be a soldier? Are you going to be a witness? What role are you going to play in all of this? Because right now, the type of electeds that's needed, they may not be able to, the type of electeds that we need right now may not be able to walk through, a detector. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need electeds right now that's about to come ready to get some stuff done. You know, like talking about a knife fight. I mean, they're not even bringing knives right now. You know what I'm saying? So you really have to figure out who do you want to be in this moment. And it's just really that simple.
Folks, a few moments ago, we told you about the Supreme Court decision, a 6-3 decision, allowing for those racist Texas maps to move forward that wiped out 5 Democratic districts, including 2 for African Americans. What does this all mean? Joining us right now is Damon Hewitt, Executive Director for the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. Damon, first of all, happy Founders Day, my fellow Alpha brother.
Man, look, this is why our fraternity was founded to lift us up and to fight the fights and to take us to the next level. And we're going to have to do that after this ruling.
So walk us through what this unsigned 6-3 decision is stated, where the lower court ruling, they ruled 2-1, and it was absolutely clear that was racial intent in the drawing of the maps. And the Supreme Court says, it's a good bet y'all not going to win. They drew these along partisan lines, even though the governor specifically said in his proclamation that they were redrawing the lines because of the DOJ's letter saying that the current map was racially discriminatory.
You said it exactly right, Roland. You know, what the court technically did is issue a stay on the lower court ruling, basically saying you went at the lower court, but we're not going to let the court's order, which said you can't use the discriminatory 25 maps, we're not going to let that order take effect. So essentially, black and brown Texans, all Texans, have to vote under racist maps. Candidates have to file to qualify for the primaries under racist maps. And the Supreme Court is going to just let that happen.
And the reason it had to come now because Monday, December 8th, is the filing deadline for Texas to qualify for the March primary. And so that's what folks are waiting on. And a lot of these Democrats who ended their walkout, they thought that by filing a lawsuit that the Supreme Court was going to abide by their what is known as their traditional ruling in terms of allowing certain things to stay in place to move forward. But I kept telling those largely white Democrats, what the hell are y'all talking about? A lower court ruled that the Alabama that was racial intent, and they allowed the map to go forward, and then they took another election cycle for the district to be created. A lower court ruled in Louisiana, same thing, and they allowed it to go forward. So I wasn't shocked that this right-wing Supreme Court was going to rule for the Republicans.
That's right. Look, in some ways, some folks didn't believe we'd get the lower court one in the first place, right? From a Trump-appointed judge who wrote the majority opinion, no doubt. And so what happened today, Roland, is not a surprise, but it should still make people angry. You know, the court always talks about how we have to be colorblind society. What this court is blind to isn't color, it's blind to racism when it's smacking you right in the face. The findings of fact from this lower court are clear and unrebutted, but the Supreme Court basically is engaging in willful blindness, looking right past it. And if you can't prove racial gerrymandering under these kinds of facts, then just how can you prove it? That's what we're grappling with now as a community of advocates, a community of racial justice litigators. We're going to have to keep stepping our game up as they keep doing these nefarious things in these courts.
And, of course, now we also await their ruling when it comes to the challenge to the seat in Louisiana. That Supreme Court decision could very well wipe out 12 to upwards of 30 CBC and Latino congressional seats.
It certainly could. The Louisiana v. Calais case is a critical one. Basically, the court could say if your rights have been violated based on race, so what? You can't have a race-conscious remedy. You have to have, quote-unquote, race-neutral remedies. But, Roland, there's actually a couple other cases that could really put the nail in the coffin as if we needed another one. There's a case out of North Dakota called Turtle Mountain, in the case that we at the Lawyers Committee litigated with the ACLU out of Mississippi, representing the Mississippi NAACP. In that case, we won a redistricting case that led to 3 new black elected officials being elected just last month, just a month ago. Now Mississippi is saying the same thing that the folks are saying in that North Dakota Turtle Mountain case. You didn't have a right to sue in the first place. No private right of action. So between this ruling today, between prior rulings, the Louisiana case that could go bad, and the Mississippi and North Dakota cases, we could be looking at the final nails in the coffin for the Voting Rights Act as we know it. But we can't let that be the end of the story. We're going to need new strategies, new paradigms to make our voice heard.
Well, Damon, not only that damn case out of Arkansas where these right-wingers want to be able to say that only the Department of Justice can file voting rights lawsuits. If the Supreme Court lets that happen, that totally screws Lawyers Committee, NAACP Legal Defense Fund, ACLU, Mark Elias, any third-party group, it screws them.
That's exactly, and the Mississippi and North Dakota cases are the same thing as at stake. Who can sue? Who has a right of action to sue? And so essentially, we'll be left rolling with rights on paper, but no remedies in law or in fact. That would be the cruelest irony of all, to have laws on the books that we can't actually even enforce through any means.
Questions for the panel. Greg, you first.
Hey, Brother Hewitt, good to see you, man, as always. Let me ask you, this screed that came out of the Court of Appeals, that came out from Judge Smith for the Fifth Circuit. How much do you think that weighed into today's rocket docket decision?
Well, it's difficult to say, Greg, and good to see you too, man. It's difficult to say because in the short writing that we have, that the unsigned portion and then the portion in which a couple of justices concurred, they don't seem to refer on a quick reading to that. Did it play any subconscious or any behind the scenes or unarticulated role? Possibly. But here's the thing. Smith is a Trump appointee. The judge that wrote the majority opinion, Reagan appointee, the judge that wrote the majority opinion is a Trump appointee. So the internecine battles amongst those, apparently conservative judges, who knows how it played. But what this court seemed to hide behind is its prior ruling in the South Carolina case, the Alexander case, that basically said, if you want to prove racial gerrymandering, you have to now meet a new higher standard, which is an almost impossible standard to meet.
Thank you.
Reese?
How do you think that this Texas ruling bodes on any potential litigation around the California maps?
Well, the California litigation, as I understand it, is a bit different in this texture in terms of what's being challenged out there on that proposition. But the political dynamics could always make a difference depending on who those judges are who are ruling. But that's not a direct application where it's kind of a one-for-one. There's a little bit of apples and oranges, Reese, but they're both fruit.
Nola?
I'm going to steal that, the apples and oranges. My question for you is, from the outside looking in, it seems that SCOTUS is doing a disservice to the lower courts. Could you speak more to that? Is that a real thing? Is that just perception? Or is this about right? Or is it as extreme as it feels?
It is a real thing. In fact, the dissenting opinion, which I believe was authored by Justice Kagan, I'm glancing at it now, the dissent wrote about how this is not just a disservice, but frankly a disrespect to the lower court's authority, to the lower court's role as a finder of fact. I mean, basically the court was left with two choices, the lower court. Do you believe, as our experts demonstrated, that the only way you could really explain what happened was because it was targeting black and brown voting districts? Or would you believe the state of Texas, which says, well, race played no role, even though DOJ directed, Trump demanded that Texas redistrict and gain partisan advantage based upon racist means? So you have to essentially say, hear no evil, see no evil, in order to rule the way you did. This was outright disrespect. And frankly, there are district court judges all over the country who are throwing up their hands in frustration. They don't understand the Supreme Court. Liberal judges, conservative judges, moderate judges who have no role in politics ever in their lives, they don't understand why the Supreme Court seems to want to always do its own thing, regardless of what they find in the lower courts, and frankly, regardless of what the law actually says. They are rewriting the law in their own grotesque image.
Reese?
Thank you.
Oh, I already asked my question.
Oh, I thought you had a second one. I'm sorry about that. Well, Damon, listen, I keep warning people. We are in an intense battle. It is real, and it's going to require folks to recognize that, listen, I'm going to say it again. When you sit your ass out of elections, then they get to have power. And they get to appoint Supreme Court justices. They get to appoint federal judges. They get to control state legislatures. They control the House and the Senate. Trump is going to be there for the next 3 years. They can be stopped, but they can only be stopped when people are engaged and understand what role we have to play. And you cannot sit your ass at home and whine and complain, because the decisions they're making is not just about congressional seats. People don't understand that Cali decision could impact congressional seats, state rep, state senate, judicial, all county commissioners, school boards, city council. Folk do not understand. They could be wiping out black political power all across the South, and that's wiping out black economic power.
You're exactly right, Roland. Look, I'm going to tell you something that a black federal judge, who I won't name, told me once. He said, what good is power if you don't use it? It atrophies and dies. We're taking hits left and right, but we have to leverage the power we have. The power of the purse in terms of where we shop and buy, the power of our voice to speak out, and the power of our votes. Otherwise, they will all be taken away.
Indeed, indeed. Damon, we appreciate it, Frat. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate you, man. Happy Founders Day, man. We'll have a better one next year.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.